She stood there, frozen at the glass window of her corner office on the 19th floor, watching the woman who destroyed her marriage step out of a brand-new luxury car that cost more than most people's homes. The autumn sun glinted off the polished metallic paint as Brittany slammed the door with theatrical confidence, flipped her honey-blonde hair over one shoulder, and looked directly up at Michelle's building with a smirk that could cut through steel. She didn't just come to visit. She came to flaunt. She came to provoke. She came to parade the car that Robert supposedly bought her, the car that was supposed to represent everything Michelle had lost, the car that was supposed to prove that the mistress had won. Only there was one problem, one critical detail that Brittany, in all her confidence and carefully curated Instagram posts, had somehow missed. That luxury car, the one she'd been posing with for weeks, bragging about to anyone who would listen, posting stories about, with captions like, "Blessed," and "Living my best life." It wasn't hers. It wasn't Robert's either. It belonged to Michelle. And in the next few minutes, in front of Michelle's entire office building, with phones recording and co-workers watching, everyone was about to find out. Michelle Davis was 42 years old, a senior financial manager at one of Houston's largest energy corporations, and she hadn't been handed anything in life. She grew up in a modest neighborhood in East Texas, where her mother worked double shifts at a diner and her father left when she was 7. She put herself through community college while working 2 jobs, transferred to University of Houston on partial scholarship, and took night classes while waitressing to cover the rest. She graduated with honors in finance, climbed the corporate ladder through sheer determination and calculated risk, and built a life most people only dream about. A beautiful 4-bedroom home in Sugar Land with a pool and a 2-car garage. 2 kids, Ethan and Sophia, ages 14 and 11, both thriving in private school, a 6-figure salary, a retirement account that most 50-year-olds would envy, and a husband she thought she knew. Robert Davis was 44, charming in the way that salesmen and politicians are charming, with a smile that disarmed you before you realized he'd already gotten what he wanted. He worked in medical device sales, made decent money, but spent it faster than he earned it. Fancy dinners, weekend golf trips, a wardrobe that screamed success but was funded by credit cards Michelle didn't know about. He was the kind of man who needed attention the way plants need sunlight, and when Michelle's demanding job required longer hours and more travel, Robert started looking elsewhere for validation. That's when Brittany walked into his life. Brittany Coleman was 26 years old, a part-time Instagram influencer with 12,000 followers, most of whom were bots or thirsty men sliding into her DMs. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office 2 blocks from Robert's sales territory, and she had mastered the art of looking expensive on a budget. Fast, fashion, styled to look designer, rented luxury handbags for photo shoots, makeup tutorials that promised transformation. She was beautiful in that carefully constructed way that required 2 hours of preparation and the right lighting. And when Robert walked into that dental office to pitch implants to the practice manager, Brittany saw an opportunity. A married man with a nice watch and an expensive car. A man who complimented her smile and lingered at the front desk longer than necessary. A man who, within 2 weeks, was texting her after work hours. Michelle didn't know. Not yet. Not until a random Tuesday evening in late March, when she was setting the table for dinner and Robert's phone, which he'd left on the kitchen counter while he showered, buzzed with a message that would shatter everything she thought was solid in her life. The preview flashed across the locked screen for just 3 seconds. "I miss you already, baby. Can't wait for Friday night at the hotel. Wear that thing I like," with a winking emoji and a red heart. From someone named Brittany with a profile picture showing cleavage and duck lips. Michelle's hands went cold. Her pulse thundered in her ears, but outwardly, she didn't move, didn't gasp, didn't cry. She stood there holding a serving spoon, staring at that message until the screen went dark, and something inside her went dark with it. She finished setting the table, called the kids down for dinner, smiled when Ethan talked about his biology project, nodded when Sophia complained about her math teacher, and when Robert came downstairs smelling like expensive body wash, hair still damp, grinning like everything was fine, Michelle looked at him across the table and felt nothing. Not anger yet, not even sadness, just a cold, clarifying emptiness. After the kids went to bed, Michelle walked into their bedroom where Robert was scrolling through his phone, probably deleting messages, and she asked the question every betrayed spouse dreads asking. How long? Robert looked up, confused at first. Then his face changed when he saw her expression. The calm, the certainty. He knew she knew. Babe, I can explain. It's not what you think. It's just... Michelle cut him off. How long, Robert? Her voice was steady, surgical. He opened his mouth, closed it, ran his hand through his hair. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of him kissing another woman and then coming home to kiss her. Half a year of family dinners and school events and anniversary plans while he was building a second life. Michelle nodded slowly. Get out. Robert's eyes widened. Michelle, come on. We can work through this. People make mistakes. I'll end it. I swear. Get out of my house, Robert. He stared at her, waiting for the tears, the screaming, the begging that would give him an opening to manipulate the situation. But Michelle just stood there, arms crossed, face like stone, and Robert realized, maybe for the first time in their marriage, that she meant every word. Before we continue deeper into this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Robert moved out 3 days later, packed his clothes, his golf clubs, his cologne collection, and left without much of a fight because deep down, he knew he had no ground to stand on. He moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Katy, 15 minutes from Brittany's place, and within a week, she had essentially moved in with him. And that's when the real humiliation began. Because Robert didn't just leave quietly. He left loudly. He posted photos on social media. Him and Brittany at steakhouses Michelle had introduced him to. Brittany wearing jewelry that looked suspiciously similar to pieces Michelle had picked out for anniversaries past. Robert driving the SUV that was technically a marital asset, but that he refused to return. And worst of all, the captions. New chapter, new happiness, no regrets. As if their 16-year marriage and 2 children were just a rough draft he'd finally moved on from. Michelle's phone blew up. Friends sending screenshots. Family members asking if she was okay. Co-workers whispering in the break room. The neighborhood book club suddenly very interested in her personal life. Did you see Robert's girlfriend? She's so young. I heard she's a model. Poor Michelle. She must be devastated. But Michelle wasn't devastated. Not in the way people expected. She was hurt, yes. Betrayed, absolutely. But she was also something else. Focused. Because while Robert was busy playing house with a woman who couldn't balance a checkbook, Michelle was quietly calculating her next moves. She hired the best divorce attorney in Houston, a woman named Sandra Whitmore, who had a reputation for leaving cheating husbands with nothing but child support payments and regret. She froze joint accounts, documented every expense Robert made that could be considered dissipation of marital assets, changed the locks, put the house solely in her name, since she'd been the one making the mortgage payments for the last 8 years anyway. And she did something else, something Robert didn't know about. Michelle had been building her own wealth separately for years, a private investment account her mother had encouraged her to open when she first got married. Just in case, her mother had said, you never know. Michelle had contributed to it, quietly, automatically, $500 a month that Robert never noticed because he never looked at the detailed statements. Over 15 years, with compound interest and smart investments, that account had grown to over $200,000, money that was hers alone, legally, completely. She also had something else Robert didn't know about, a company car. Michelle's position qualified her for a vehicle allowance, and after years of driving her own sedan, she'd finally opted in. She'd ordered a top-of-the-line luxury electric vehicle, metallic silver with cream leather interior, worth over $110,000. It was scheduled for delivery in 3 weeks. The registration, insurance, and all paperwork were in her name only, issued through her company. Robert had no idea it existed. But somehow, Brittany found out. Maybe Robert mentioned it in passing, trying to impress her with his wife's success. Maybe Brittany snooped through old emails. However it happened, Brittany latched onto the idea of that car like it was her golden ticket, and she started telling people it was hers, posting countdowns on Instagram. 3 weeks until my new baby arrives, posing at the dealership where Michelle had placed the order, pretending she was picking out features, dropping hints in comments. Can't wait to drive my luxury car to the places that matter. She was building a narrative, a fiction, a performance for her followers that Robert, in his desperation to keep her happy, supported with his silence. Meanwhile, Michelle watched it all unfold from a distance. She didn't respond, didn't post, didn't defend herself. She just worked, came home to her kids, helped with homework, made dinner, went to soccer games, lived her life with dignity while Robert and Brittany paraded their recklessness for the world to see. Her friends didn't understand. Why aren't you fighting back? Why aren't you telling people the truth? Why are you letting her get away with this? But Michelle just smiled, a small, knowing smile. Because, she said quietly to her closest friend over coffee one Saturday morning, the truth always comes out, and when it does, I want to be standing on solid ground. Her friend didn't fully understand. Not yet, but she would. Everyone would. Because the car was arriving in 2 days, and Brittany had just made a critical mistake. Brittany had been posting about her car for weeks, countdowns, teaser photos, talking about how hard she'd worked, how blessed she was, how success looked good on her. Her followers ate it up. You deserve it. Queen. Living your best life. Inspiration. And then, the day before the car was scheduled to be delivered to Michelle's office, Brittany posted a video. She was standing outside the dealership, practically bouncing with excitement, talking directly to the camera. Tomorrow's the big day, you guys. Tomorrow I pick up my brand new luxury car. I'm talking heated seats, massaging chairs, autopilot, the works. And yes, it's mine. Fully paid for. No lease, no loans. Just success, baby. The comments exploded. Thousands of likes, hundreds of congratulatory messages. And then, someone commented, "Wait, didn't your boyfriend just leave his wife? Is this her car?" Brittany replied immediately, publicly, with a laughing emoji. His ex-wife couldn't afford a car like this if she saved for 10 years. This is mine, earned, deserved, period. That comment was screenshotted, shared, sent to Michelle by at least a dozen people, and Michelle, sitting in her living room that evening with a glass of wine and her attorney on speed dial, read it once, then twice. Then she set her phone down, leaned back, and laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Because Brittany had just put the final nail in her own coffin. The next morning, Michelle woke up early, got dressed in a crisp white blouse and tailored navy slacks, and drove to her office in her old sedan, the one she'd been driving for the last 6 years. She parked in her reserved spot, rode the elevator to the 19th floor, and settled into her office with a coffee and her laptop. Her assistant knocked around 9. "Miss Davis, your new company vehicle is being delivered this morning. Should arrive around 11. Michelle nodded. "Thank you, Jenna. Let me know when it's here." Jenna hesitated. "Also, there's been some chatter online. Apparently someone is claiming that car is theirs." Michelle smiled. "I'm aware. It'll resolve itself." Jenna looked confused but nodded and left. Michelle returned to her emails, calm as ever. While across town, Brittany was waking up in Robert's apartment, doing her makeup, picking out the perfect outfit, a tight red dress that she'd bought specifically for this moment. She curled her hair, applied false lashes, took a dozen selfies to find the right angle, and then she told Robert her plan. "I'm going to go pick up the car from the dealership and drive it to your ex-wife's office." Robert, who was eating cereal in his boxers, looked up, alarmed. "Brittany, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "I want her to see it. I want her to see that I won, that I got the life she couldn't keep." Robert hesitated. He'd been feeling uneasy about the car situation for days, something about the way Michelle had stayed silent through all of this, the way she hadn't fought back. But Brittany was insistent, and Robert, as always, caved. "Just don't cause a scene, okay?" Brittany kissed him on the cheek. "Baby, I don't cause scenes, I make statements." And with that, she left. But Brittany wasn't going to the dealership, because the car wasn't being delivered to a dealership. It was being delivered directly to Michelle's office. Company policy. All executive vehicles were delivered on site. Brittany didn't know that. She assumed the car was at a dealership waiting for pickup. So she did what any influencer chasing clout would do. She went to a luxury car dealership, found a similar model on the showroom floor, and posed with it. Took photos, recorded videos, posted them with captions like, She's here, and dreams do come true. Then she got in her old Honda Civic and drove toward Michelle's office building in downtown Houston. She arrived just before 11, pulling into the visitor parking lot, reapplying her lipstick in the rearview mirror, checking her hair one last time. She stepped out, phone in hand, recording herself. "Okay, guys, I'm about to walk into my man's ex-wife's office and show her what winning looks like. Let's go." She strutted toward the building in her red dress and stilettos, head high, confidence oozing, completely unaware that inside, on the 19th floor, Michelle had just received a call. "Miss Davis, your vehicle has arrived. It's parked in the executive lot out front." Michelle stood, grabbed her keys, her phone, and her purse, and headed toward the elevator. By the time she reached the ground floor, a crowd had started to gather. Because Brittany, in her infinite need for attention, had positioned herself right in front of the building, posing dramatically next to the brand-new luxury car that had just been delivered. Employees on their coffee breaks stopped and stared. Some recognized Brittany from social media. Others just saw a spectacle and pulled out their phones. Brittany was in her element, twirling, laughing, touching the car like it was hers, talking loudly to anyone within earshot. "Yeah, this is mine. Just picked it up. Custom ordered. You know how it is when you work hard and God blesses you." Someone in the crowd muttered, "Isn't that Michelle Davis's car?" Brittany spun around, eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? This is my car. I don't know who Michelle is, but she definitely can't afford this." Another person pulled up Instagram on their phone. "You literally posted about this car for weeks, but the dealership tags say it's registered to someone else." Brittany's smile faltered for half a second. "Well, obviously the registration takes time. It's in my boyfriend's name for now." "Your boyfriend Robert? The guy who's broke and living off credit cards?" Brittany's face flushed. "You don't know what you're talking about." And that's when the building's front doors opened, and Michelle stepped outside. The crowd parted slightly, whispers spread like wildfire. "That's her. That's Michelle Davis. Oh my God. This is about to be good." Brittany turned, saw Michelle walking toward her, and for a moment, just a flicker, her confidence wavered. But she recovered quickly, crossing her arms, tilting her head, smirking. Well, if it isn't the ex-wife. Come to see what you lost." Michelle stopped about 10 feet away, calm, composed, her face unreadable. She didn't yell, didn't rush. She just looked at Brittany, then at the car, then back at Brittany. And then she spoke, her voice clear and steady. "Brittany, I need you to step away from my car." The crowd went silent. Brittany laughed, a loud, performative laugh. "Your car? Honey, this is my car. Robert bought it for me. Maybe you should check your facts before you embarrass yourself in front of all these people." Michelle didn't react. She simply reached into her purse, pulled out a key fob, and held it up. Then she pressed the unlock button. The car's lights blinked. The horn chirped twice. The doors unlocked with a soft mechanical click. The crowd gasped. Phones came up. Recording, filming, capturing every second. Brittany's face went pale. No, that's not," Robert said. Michelle walked past her, opened the driver's side door, and pulled a document from the glove compartment, the vehicle registration. She handed it to the security guard, who had come outside to see what the commotion was about. "Read it aloud, please." The guard, an older man named Dennis who'd worked there for 15 years, looked at the paper, then at Brittany, then at Michelle. He cleared his throat. "Registered owner, Michelle Ann Davis. Corporate vehicle issued by Meridian Energy Solutions. License plate, LXS4291. VIN number." He trailed off. The crowd murmured. Cameras kept recording. Brittany stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, her face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and then, finally, humiliation. Michelle stepped closer, her voice low but firm enough for everyone to hear. "You came here to embarrass me, to flaunt, to prove you won. But all you did, Brittany, was expose the truth about Robert. He told you he bought you a car. He told you it was yours. He let you post about it, brag about it, build your entire identity around it for weeks, and it was all a lie." Brittany's eyes filled with tears, but not the sad kind, the angry, desperate kind. "He said," he promised. Michelle's expression softened, just slightly, but her words didn't. He's been promising a lot of things he can't deliver, hasn't he? The crowd was silent now. Even the people recording seemed to hold their breath. Brittany looked around, realizing every phone was pointed at her, realizing this was being filmed, realizing her carefully curated image was crumbling in real time. She tried to say something, opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Michelle turned to the crowd. For anyone wondering, this car was issued to me through my company. I ordered it 2 months ago. The registration, the insurance, the payments, all in my name. Robert doesn't own it. He can't afford it. And Brittany was lied to. She looked back at Brittany. I'm not angry at you for being with Robert. That's between you and your conscience. But coming to my workplace, using my property to humiliate me, that ends now. Brittany's face crumpled. She turned and ran, stumbling slightly in her heels, practically sprinting back to her Honda Civic in the visitor lot. She got in, slammed the door, and peeled out of the parking lot, tires screeching. The crowd slowly dispersed, people whispering, some laughing, others shaking their heads. Michelle stood there for a moment, keys in hand, looking at her new car. Jenna, her assistant, came outside. Miss Davis, I don't even know what to say. Michelle smiled, a real smile. I do. Let's get back to work. But the story didn't end there, because within an hour, the video of the confrontation was everywhere. Someone had posted it to Twitter, then TikTok, then Instagram. It went viral, millions of views, thousands of comments. She handled that with so much class. The way she stayed calm, iconic. Brittany really thought she did something. Robert is a whole liar. Michelle is the definition of unbothered. Hashtags started trending. The video was covered by local news stations. Commentary channels on YouTube broke it down. Reddit threads dissected every second. And Brittany's Instagram, which had been her pride and joy, became a graveyard. Her comments were flooded. You got exposed. Liar. How embarrassing. She deleted the car posts. Then her whole account went private. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots had already been saved. Screen recordings archived. Her humiliation was permanent. And Robert? Robert saw the video at work. A co-worker showed him during lunch, grinning. Yo, isn't this your wife? Well, ex-wife. Robert watched it, his face going red, then pale. He tried calling Brittany, she didn't answer. He tried calling Michelle, straight to voicemail. He left work early, drove home to his apartment, and found Brittany packing her bags. Brittany, wait, let me explain. She spun around, mascara streaked down her face. Explain? Explain what, Robert? That you lied? That you made me look like an idiot in front of millions of people? That you promised me things you never had? Robert tried to grab her arm. I was going to get you a car, I swear. I just needed more time. Time? Or money you don't have? She zipped her suitcase. I looked you up, Robert. After today. I did what I should have done 6 months ago. You're broke. You have 3 maxed-out credit cards. Your car's about to be repossessed. You're 2 months behind on rent. Everything you told me was a lie. Robert's face fell. I was trying to give you the life you deserved, by stealing from your ex-wife, by lying to me, by humiliating both of us. She picked up her bag. We're done. And she left. Just like that. No dramatic goodbye. No second chance. She walked out, got in her Honda, and drove away. Robert stood in the empty apartment, surrounded by unpaid bills and half-empty takeout containers, and for the first time in months, maybe years, he was completely alone. 2 days later, he showed up at Michelle's house. He didn't call first. Just pulled into the driveway in his almost repossessed sedan and knocked on the door. Michelle answered, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than he'd seen her in years. What do you want, Robert? He looked awful, unshaven, circles under his eyes, defeated. Can we talk? Michelle sighed. The kids aren't here. You have 5 minutes. She didn't invite him in. They stood on the porch. Robert ran his hand through his hair. I messed up. Yes, you did. I know I hurt you. I know I embarrassed you. I don't know what I was thinking. Michelle crossed her arms. You weren't thinking, Robert. You were feeling. And you let your feelings destroy 16 years of marriage and our family. He nodded, looking at the ground. I want to make it right. You can't. Michelle, please. I'll do anything. She stared at him for a long moment. "Do you even know why you're here, Robert?" He looked confused. "What do you mean? Are you here because you miss me? Because you miss the kids? Or are you here because Brittany left and you're broke and you have nowhere else to go?" Robert opened his mouth, closed it, and Michelle saw the answer in his eyes. She reached into her back pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. "This is the final divorce settlement. Sign it, and we're done." Robert took the envelope with shaking hands. "Michelle, You what? Robert? You're sorry? You made a mistake? You want another chance?" Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "You gave up everything I built with you, for someone who mocked me. You let her come to my workplace. You lied about my property. You humiliated our children." She stepped closer. "I spent 16 years supporting you, covering for you, believing in you, and you threw it away for someone who didn't even know your real financial situation." Robert's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'm so sorry." Michelle's expression softened, just barely. "I hope you are, Robert. I really do. But sorry doesn't fix this. Sign the papers." He looked down at the envelope. "What about the kids? You'll have visitation. Every other weekend. Holidays will split. Child support is outlined in the agreement. And the house? Mine. The cars? Mine. The savings? Mine. Your debt? Yours." Robert swallowed hard. "I don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem anymore." She turned toward the door. "Goodbye, Robert." 6 months passed. Michelle threw herself into work, into her kids, into rebuilding the parts of herself she'd neglected while trying to hold a broken marriage together. Her company promoted her to VP of Finance, a corner office, a significant raise, stock options. She started therapy, took the kids on a vacation to Colorado, laughed more, slept better. And one evening, while scrolling through her phone, her friend Jennifer sent her a message. "You're not going to believe this." Attached was a photo, grainy, taken from across a parking lot, but unmistakable. Brittany, wearing a uniform, working as a cashier at a big box store. And in the background, through the window, Robert, sitting in a beat-up delivery car with a food app sticker on the windshield. Michelle stared at the photo for a long moment, and then, quietly, she smiled. Not out of malice, not out of revenge, but out of something deeper, relief, because she'd spent so long afraid that leaving Robert, that standing up for herself, would somehow ruin her, that she'd be the one left broken. But instead, she was thriving, and they, the ones who'd betrayed her, humiliated her, tried to take from her, were facing the consequences of their own choices. She didn't share the photo, didn't post it, didn't gloat. She simply deleted the message, put her phone down, and went to check on her kids. Ethan was in his room, doing homework. Sophia was practicing piano in the living room. The house smelled like the lasagna Michelle had made for dinner, and for the first time in a very long time, everything felt right. A few weeks later, Michelle was leaving work when she saw someone standing by her car in the parking garage. For a moment, her heart jumped, thinking it might be Robert again, but as she got closer, she realized it was a woman, mid-30s, professional attire, holding a folder. "Miss Davis?" Michelle stopped. "Yes," the woman extended her hand. "My name is Lauren Cho. I'm a senior editor at a women's empowerment publication. We've been following your story, and we'd love to feature you in an article about financial independence and self-worth." Michelle hesitated. "I'm not sure I'm interested in being in the spotlight." Lauren smiled. "I understand, but your story, the way you handled everything with grace and dignity, it's resonating with millions of women. Women who feel trapped, who think they can't leave, who don't know their own worth. You're proof that they can." Michelle thought about it, about all the messages she'd received from strangers, women thanking her, sharing their own stories, telling her she'd inspired them to check their bank accounts, to see lawyers, to value themselves. "Okay," Michelle said finally. "Let's do it." The article came out 2 months later. It was beautiful, honest, powerful. It talked about Michelle's journey, her strength, her refusal to be defined by betrayal. It talked about financial literacy, about protecting yourself, about knowing your worth. It went viral, again. But this time, Michelle controlled the narrative. This time, it was her voice, her story, her terms. She started getting speaking requests, podcasts, financial workshops, women's groups, and slowly, carefully, Michelle began stepping into a new role, not just as a finance executive, but as an advocate, a voice for women who needed to hear that they could survive betrayal, that they could rebuild, that their worth wasn't tied to someone else's choices. 1 year after the car incident, Michelle was invited to speak at a conference in Austin. She stood on stage in front of 500 women, and she told her story: the affair, the humiliation, the car, the confrontation, the divorce. And when she finished, the room stood up and applauded. Some women were crying, others were nodding. And Michelle realized something profound. Her pain had purpose. Her story mattered, not because of the car, not because of the viral video, but because it reminded people of something essential. You are not what someone else says you are. You are not defined by betrayal. You are not diminished by someone else's lies. You are whole. You are worthy. And you can rebuild. After the conference, a young woman approached her, early 20s, tears in her eyes. "My boyfriend cheated on me last month. I've been feeling so worthless, like I wasn't enough. But hearing your story, it helped me realize that his choices aren't a reflection of me." Michelle hugged her. "You're right. They're not. And you're going to be okay." The woman smiled through her tears. "Thank you." And as Michelle drove home that night, windows down, music playing, the city lights blurring past, she thought about everything she'd been through: the pain, the betrayal, the public humiliation, the fight to reclaim her dignity. And she realized something. She wouldn't change it. Not if it meant she'd still be living a lie. Not if it meant she'd still be settling for less than she deserved. Because the truth was, losing Robert wasn't the worst thing that happened to her. Losing herself would have been. And she'd chosen differently. She'd chosen her worth, her peace, her life. So as we close this story, ask yourself this: if you were Michelle, standing in that parking lot, watching your world unravel in front of strangers with cameras, would you have had the strength to stay calm, to reclaim what was yours, to walk away with your dignity intact? And if you've ever been betrayed, ever been humiliated, ever felt like you lost everything, remember this: you didn't lose everything. You lost someone who didn't value you. And that's not a loss. That's clarity. Because in the end, Michelle's story isn't about a luxury car. It's not about a cheating husband or a delusional mistress. It's about knowing who you are when everything else falls apart. It's about standing firm when the world is watching. It's about choosing yourself, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And if that's not a lesson worth remembering, I don't know what is. If this story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of your own worth, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that prove one undeniable truth: karma doesn't need your help. It has perfect timing. Thanks for watching. And remember, your worth was never up for debate.